Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We are eCapital Advisors. We are here to talk about how technology will support your connected enterprise. I'm Connie Walsh, and I have been with eCapital almost a year. I've come with over 25 years of retail experience across many functions of the business, including planning, buying, analytics, inventory, and operations. My true passion is really in helping companies work cross-functionally to use data, insights, and analytics with the right technology to successfully run their business. And with that, David Grand?
Yeah, and my name is David Grand. I've been with eCapital Advisors for 8 years now. I've worked on planning implementation on many different technologies, and currently I am managing the delivery for all of our Adaptive Insights projects, and I'm very focused on customer success and client enablement, so making sure that whatever we implement is sustainable long-term by the client.
So before we jump in, I just want to remind you that if you can submit questions via the Q&A or the chat panel, and at the end of the conversation, we will answer those questions. So feel free to ask any questions along the way. With that, let's jump in. So creating a connected enterprise, what does that really mean? The best performing companies understand that it's really important to create a connected and profitable enterprise. Many companies today are working in siloed environments using disparate planning processes, and it can take a long time to understand the impact of your changes on the operational side and how that affects your overall financials. We like to talk about moving from this silo environment where you're talking about each individual part of the business as working independently and really moving to a connected enterprise. It's a critical part of of running a profitable business. What does it mean to create a connected enterprise? It's really coming together as an organization to align your data, the operations, and workflow to ensure your overall bottom line profitability. As you talk about what teams, teams within a connected enterprise, what do they do? How do they ensure a connected enterprise? They discuss enterprise goals. They want to make sure that the entire team is focused on achieving these goals. They share. It's about sharing data across the business. Again, not working in silos, but sharing this data across the enterprise. They explore what-if scenarios, and what that means is they're looking at not just one or two options on how you optimize your business, but looking at optimal decisions and how many what-if scenarios they can look at. Is it looking at 3 or 4 different options of how to run your business and then making decisions around that? They quickly identify outliers, signals that are impacting the business. And what this means is you can't be looking at your business 100% of your data and insights all day long, but really identifying those outliers or exceptions in your business. Teams ensure the operational side of the business can support the financials. So again, not just doing a bottoms-up or a top-down financial plan, but understanding the operational impact of the business and making sure that you're taking partners along the way. Teams adjust along the way. So it's critical that you're adjusting the operational side of the business when financial forecast varies from plan, and also taking any constraints into account. Teams utilize enterprise dashboards and reporting for cross-functional transparency and communication of performance to goal. Again, all teams aligned on specific goals. It really, by having dashboards and consistent reporting, that helps a lot. Next is the benefits of a connected enterprise. So what are the overall benefits? Definitely alignment of company goals. Again, not working in silos and working on alignment to your specific area, but aligning those goals to the overall company. The benefit also is communication. If you talk about working as a connected enterprise, the communication improves across all parts of the business. Less time pulling data, and we've all been there before, where you spend a majority of your week pulling the data and no time spent on running your business. The benefit would be less time pulling the data, more time analyzing the insights and making recommendations for improvement. Accuracy. So the accuracy of forecasts, when you have all businesses aligned, the forecast accuracy improves and your bottom line profitability improves. Resource efficiencies. Again, we've been there before where teams are doing, there's duplication of work being done across the business. By really connecting your enterprise, trying to find the efficiencies within your business and aligning. So just making sure that there's less duplication across all work efforts. Collaboration, to me, this is the fun part. It's working across the teams in a positive environment to move the business forward. And lastly, it's easier to solve business problems when you're working together and ensuring that your workflow and technology is aligned to your overall company goals. With that, we talk about the analytics and insights used, and this is an example in the retail space where each part of the business uses different analytics and insights, but it's all coming together to provide accuracy, flexibility, speed, relevance, and standardization within your business. In the retail and planning and analytical space, you can see here all parts of the business aligned between the financial side, the assortment, pricing, location plans, the operational side, inventory, promotions, space allocation, really utilizing reporting and analytics to provide additional recommendations within your business. Again, working through ensuring that there is cross-functional partnership improves your connected enterprise and bottom line profitability. So to take this down to some specific real world examples, we have 3 examples that we pulled together here just to talk about what happens when either there's a business example, what is your overall financial impact and operational impact? So business decision number 1, what happens in retail when your promotional timing changes? Again, this happens a lot. Decision has been made to move a major sales event, possibly due to a later holiday. The financial impact here is all financials in the current week need to be adjusted, and not just the current week, but the surrounding weeks, and adjusting sales, margin, receipts, inventory, just to name a few. But if you stop there, you would forget about the operational impacts. You need to keep working as a connected enterprise to think about the operational impact. And you talk about store labor. Your store labor needs to be adjusted. Production needs to shift. Shipping schedules need to be changed. Marketing and e-com need to work to update offers and timing. And customer service will need to be updated to align with the new promotional timing. Second example we provided here is a business decision, and this is maybe not a decision, but a situation where new product is delayed. New product delivery is delayed due to quality issues. What happens when that product introduction date moves from May to June? The financial impact is great. There's lost revenue, margin, receipts and inventory shift or possible cancel. And again, the financial impact long-term could be customers disappointed. Operational impacts would include shipping, store presentation, the website, if it's delayed or not coming, website needs to be updated. Marketing needs to adjust. Planning team needs to continue to track deliveries, and store and customer service need to be alerted for customer communication. Business situation number 3 is one that we experienced here in Minnesota recently, is cold weather product sales suddenly trending 50% higher above plan due to a snowstorm in the Midwest. Again, April snowstorms are not planned for typically, but they do occur. So what is that financial impact? Your increased revenue and margin, which is great. However, do you have the right inventory levels? Do you have the right receipt flow to cover the trend? On the operational impact side, demand planning needs to update their forecast immediately. Productions need to be updated. to either increase production or have your vendor partners ship additional products immediately. Store labor may need to be adjusted to support higher traffic in the stores. E-commerce and merchant team needs to work on messaging for potential out of stocks. And also, what is the plan on how to quickly get back in stock? And then one of the most important pieces is how to handle customer relationships where we are out of stock. Next, we'd like to talk about the game-changing capabilities of a solution. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to David Grand, who is our technical expert.
Hi, so yeah, now we're going to talk about how do you get to this integrated solution from a technology perspective. And the term we're going to be using today is dynamic planning. And that is in contrast to static planning, which a lot of organizations do today. That's where the only people doing the financial plan are the people in finance, and they're doing it on a calendar-driven basis. So they're doing it quarterly, they're doing a plan annually, but it's not always up to date, and oftentimes as soon as you finish it, it's actually out of date, and it doesn't necessarily represent how the business is actually trending. So you'll hear us talk about dynamic planning, and that really represents planning the constant change. So going to something where, like Connie mentioned, a what-if scenario where, we have a snowstorm here in Minnesota last week. No one had planned for it. So what does this mean for our business? So getting everybody involved from a planning process to come up with that forecast, come up with the impact of that. Using technology to hold, here's what we were looking at right before that. With this coming in, here's what we're looking at now. Being able to make that comparison. And realistically, we'll keep talking about this as well, but it's bringing everybody together because everybody has a plan. People in supply chain have a manufacturing plan, likely somewhere in Excel. Marketing has their own plan as well, some Excel worksheet as well. So how do we bring everybody together so that those plans are interconnected, so that if someone makes a change in the demand side, that flows through to the supply side, that flows through to our inventory levels. Shipping can catch up on what the increased cost is going to be when we have to ship more to our distributors at April as opposed to waiting until next year. And at the end goal is being able to allocate people, process, and technology intelligently to address issues, to come up with the smartest solutions, and trying to be as reliant on technology as possible. So organizations are trying to move towards a more technical solution as opposed to just throwing people at problems. So how do we get an interconnected system so we can offload some of this manual labor that's done offline into a system? But there's challenges to getting to this dynamic planning process. The first one is it's hard to coordinate among stakeholders. There's a lot of people involved. Everybody's got their own specific models. You need to have that communication that Connie was talking about. So, you're telling everybody, hey, we're all going to plan for what's happening for this snowstorm. So you need to have something that's collaborative. You need to have something that's comprehensive, so it can be hard to maintain different models, different levels of models, and have a single source of the truth. So if we've got people that are just planning expenses as a last year times a percentage, or you might be planning travel as number of trips times cost per trip, but you're in supply chain and all of a sudden you've got a very detailed plan where you're saying by product, here's my manufacturing cost, here's my expected demand by product. Something needs to be comprehensive to handle that high-level plan as well as that very detailed plan as well. And then it's hard to update plans quickly and keep them up to date. So how do you get into something that's continuous? How do you make your updates as you know that they happen? How do you have everything aggregate and connect quickly? Those are some of the problems we see from a dynamic planning process. So from a technology perspective, you need to have a tool that addresses all that. So if the issue is something that needs to be collaborative, the solution is you need a tool that is easy. Users need to be able to intuitively understand what they're seeing when they log into an environment. You can't have a 40-page manual that they have to read every month when they log in to do something. They need to be able to just be able to get in, click, understand what things mean, click through to go from their reports to their forms, and not have to remember the 5-click combination they need to get to somewhere they want to be Something needs to be comprehensive. So to be comprehensive, you need a tool that's powerful. You need to be able to plan at that high level or low level. You need to be able to analyze at different levels as well. You need to be able to drill through from one location to another. You need to see the transactions behind the scenes, or be able to understand the logic and the calculation that is providing your number. So that means you need a tool that's powerful. And to be continuous, you need a tool that's fast. So you need something that can not just add up all the numbers quickly, but you need something that can adapt quickly. So if I change how my planning process works, I need to be able to go into the system and change my model to adapt to that as well. If all of a sudden you've got a new variable that comes in that needs to be a part of your model, if you're working offline in Excel, you're just going to add that and you're going to update your model right away. So you need to be able to have a tool and a technology that matches that. So in your system, you can add that new line in, that new variable, get the data pulled in, and get that incorporated into your model. So now we want to introduce you guys to a tool called Adaptive Insights. And this tool is fast, powerful, and easy. And what it is an integrated planning and reporting platform. It's cloud-based, and it allows you to pull data in from source systems, combine different data from different source systems, do the analysis to figure out where you're at, take that data, move it forward-looking, and model different scenarios. You can do what-if scenarios, you can do a base budget, you can do whatever you need to do from a planning perspective, and then you can change that to monitoring. So how are we doing versus this? Where were we off? Where were our assumptions different? Transform that to reporting and continue the cycle going of modeling, analyzing, monitoring, and reporting. And the idea here is that everybody plans. Like we mentioned before, everybody within your organization likely has some sort of a workbook or some tool to say, here's what we're going to be doing for the next few months, few weeks, few years. Everybody's tracking that, everybody's maintaining that, everybody's got something that allows them to pivot if things change quickly. So why is this all done in disconjointed systems, stuff that doesn't talk to each other? It makes it really difficult to try to come together and try to make a dynamic planning process where if we want to do some sort of a scenario planning for our, we've got a holiday that moves and we're not going to do our promotion until a week later. What is the impact of that? Everybody's got that offline, but how do we get that in a connected system where all of the models are talking to each other and that impact is seen easily, efficiently, and can be compared to what we were doing before? So with that, we're going to jump into Adaptive Insights and actually provide you guys a demo of the tool and look at how you can use it to create a dynamic planning process within a tool. So now I'm just going to jump over to Adaptive Insights, and like we mentioned before, this is a cloud-based product, so everything you see here is hosted on one of their data centers. You're able to get up and running very quickly, and you don't have to maintain the server, you don't have to maintain the software. That's all maintained by them. And you see here, we're just looking at dashboards. So dashboards are a huge feature where you're loading in, data from multiple sources and combining it so that you can see, different KPIs. You can see your product revenue, your EBITDA. You can see gauges to see what your gross margin percentage is. You've got different charts, pie charts, graphs, line, bar. You have all these options from a dashboarding perspective, and most of this is interactive as well. So, we've got net product revenue by geography here. If we want to see, well, say we want to exclude the U.S. right now, we can click on that, and it's going to recalculate the rest of the graph to show you what the revenue is by the other 3 regions. You can have, scorecards as well. So here's our revenue period to date, month to date, all that with the variances. From here, you can go to what's called a presentation mode. So this makes it look, very much like a PowerPoint slides where you can flip through your different metrics you have on that dashboard and see it, use it as a presentation. You have the ability to email this as well, so you can send out a snapshot of this. So, you can send this to your business partner or an executive who wants to see, okay, where are we at? One of the coolest things about this, though, is everything's interconnected. So as we mentioned before, you need to have a powerful tool where you can do analysis on this. So if I wanted to look at, for instance, my revenue for March, and I want to click here and see, okay, which customers were buying from us in March. I can click in and all of a sudden, get a top view of the different customers that were purchasing from us in March. And you can continue going on this as well. So if I want to go down to, well, customer 5, which products were they buying? I have the ability to drill in on that and see what are, by product, what were they purchasing. That's from customer 5. From here, you can even just come back up and say, well, overall, what products were all of my customers purchasing? Don't have to click out of anything, just click on it again, and now I can see it reload all of the different products that they're working on. I can go back here, and it'll take me right back to my original dashboard. You have a ton of different options for graphs in here as well. So you can do all the ones we've talked about, bars, lines. You can do waterfalls as well. So you can see, from this one's operating expense, here's where we're at from a actual perspective, and here's where we want to be from our budget. What are the different buckets that are contributing to that, both positive and negative? These are all easily maintainable, easily updated by end users, so you don't have to go to your IT department, or you don't have to have a centralized team that's managing all these. Any end user can have the ability to log in and make their own dashboard. Now you have structures as well, so you can drill in and see the different levels within your organization, potentially your different stores that you have, your different regions. So you can use the same dashboard to work over multiple different areas. And again, everything here connects to the rest of the platform. So if I was looking at, here's my target versus for revenue. The red here is the, tops down target, where my green is my bottoms up build. And I want to look at, this revenue spike here, where it's way higher than that tops up target. I can click on this and click on Explore Data, which is going to let me drill into that number. I can, drill down to different levels where I can see which product it's coming from, and I can get to, a P&L account where it's showing me that this is being fed from a different form. So I'm just going to click through there. And from here, what it's going to do is it's going to take me to the actual product revenue model. So I can see that I can even click through from here to the sheet. So now I'm going to see my product revenue model. I may or may not have access to change this, but it's something I can dig in and look at the data. Here now I can see all the different details of what that store was doing, where here's how many units, here's what the price for all those were, and you can even have different costs for cost of goods sold on this form as well. That's an entirely separate model, but you're able to drill through from the high-level dashboard to get down into the detail. From here, you can even pivot things. So if I wanted to see all the different products, I can drag that on top of my, the units metric. And then what it's going to do, it's going to reload for all the different products within that model. And say for this one, this 565 looks pretty high. So let's just change this to 100. I'm going to click Save here, and what it's going to do, it's going to recalculate everything on the fly. And on this form, you've got a ton of functionality too, so you can continue if you want to click on this cell and look at more detail. You can see what the contributing dimensions are, or you can see an audit trail. So I just made that change. I can see from an audit trail perspective, here are all the different changes I made. Most recent one being today, just a couple minutes ago, I changed that number from 565 to 100. So you can have full visibility to what these numbers are, when they changed, who changed them. So there's full traceability. You can also write formulas as well. So if I wanted to say this equals last month times if I, let's just say 1.15, or if you've got an assumption on a different form, you can submit that as well, and it will change it to a formula here. Now I click Save, and it's going to recalculate that number to show last month times 15% uptick. You can input at a full year number as well. So if I wanted to do 4,200 here, Then it'll ask me how I want to push that back to a different period. So I want to push it back based on the data that's there from last year, or potentially different assumption accounts. So, if you've got users, you want them to all be focused on a business days per month assumption or revenue for the current year. These are the assumptions we built in for this demo, but these assumptions can really be anything you want. So however, your retail organization works, whether it's by, new store openings or, business days per month, shopping days per month, something like that, you can build those assumptions in so that you're spreading the number based on a relevant metric. For now, I'm just going to go back and change this back to 100. Everything's interconnected. It's a very simple tool where you don't have to run any processes, you don't have to run any connections to move data from this revenue model back to that consolidated P&L model. I don't have to aggregate up from sales north to the total organization. I can just come right back to this dashboard, and I should see this spike here now comes down. Everything just works. As you open something up, you save it, it's going to update the numbers for the rest of the model, the rest of the environment. The other thing you can do is reporting. So there's an entire reporting environment where you can, build out a full set of reports. These are all based on security, so you can have access to what your group needs access to. You can build out what you need to build out. This doesn't need to be centralized by IT or anything. This can be managed by end users. And within here, you can do, favorite reports as well. So you can see, your data that you need to see. This one is a comparison of actuals versus budget. And we see here it's actually got a budget snapshot one. So this goes back to the dynamic planning process where you can have as many what-if scenarios within the tool as you want. So if you have a continuous live, here's what we think is going to happen. But at a certain point you say, okay, we want to take a snapshot of this, or we want to plan for our promotion moving to a different time. You can copy your current version to that new what-if scenario to give all users or certain users access to that. You manage the communication to say, here's the process we're planning for now. We're going to go in and see what happens if we had to move this promotion or if we think a snowstorm's going to come in April. We want you to go in and update your plan to reflect what's going to happen there. You can have that, and you can see, there's some variances here. That's probably because of the product we recently moved. But from here, you can have a comparison report to show this is P&L based, but it can be operational metrics. It can be any sort of numbers you want. P&L is always a good starting point because you need to manage your business and see, with this change, what is the overall impact to my business. So for an example here, let's just go into a different sheet we have. This one's personnel planning, but it could be anything. It could be store planning. Say you wanted to say what happens if we move a store from opening from the middle of the year to the beginning of the year. It could be promotions. It could be new product launches. Whatever you want to talk about, where you could have, flex in when you launch a product or when you're opening a store, you can have that planned in a sheet. And it's taking longer than usual to load. Let me just try this one again. There we go. So in this case, we've got an HR sheet where we've got all our existing employees on top, and then down on the bottom we've got some planned new hires. And these are salespeople. So if you're a retailer that works with distributors, you might have salespeople that go to all the different companies you guys sell your you work with to sell your product, and say we want to hire a new executive, and we've got these 3 planned for the year. But what happens if we move this third one up to the beginning of the year? If we have an interconnected model, we can save that change and instantly go back and see what the impact is on our entire business. So if we go back to that same report we were looking at before, we can now see that increased revenue by 3%, increased our overall margin by 8%, and increased net income by 11%. And you can build this to be as interconnected as you want. So obviously changes to net income are going to have changes to the balance sheet. So you can see there's different changes to those as well. And it has impact cash flow as well. So You can see here are the differences to our cash flow just by moving that one employee up. And you can make this as detailed as you want. So for instance, in this case, we've got all of the payroll expenses are increasing because we moved a new hire up by 3 months. That includes IT allocation. So we can have IT allocated based on the head count, which means that moving something up is going to increase your IT allocation to the organization overall. And this one's looking at just the North region. We can look at the overall region or the overall company as well, and see that that impact was 11% at the base level, but at the highest level, it's only a less than a single percentage increase to our net income. With reporting in this tool as well, you have full control over what you want these reports to look like. So you can do conditional formatting however you need it, which is going to help you identify those outliers, those changes. You're not going to be trying to look at all data within your organization. You want to focus on where there's something that's outstanding. You don't want to just be looking at everything. You want to see where is the 2,000% difference that we had to plan, or versus last month versus last year. You want that to stick out so you can see it and you don't have to go hunting for it. Within here, you can also do notes as well. So you want to communicate with the rest of your organization on why something happened. Right now, they're down in the footnotes. You can have them show in line as well. So you can have your marketing note show up right under the marketing line. You can have all your comments show up where they're input. From here, you can also drill into different dimensions. So if I want to say what levels are contributing to this variance, I can see that the Sales North region has a huge variance to budget. And each of these numbers are clickable as well, so I can see, okay, where did this working budget number come from? Well, it's this account last year times an inflation rate. I can see that account written very simply. I can also see the values that were there. So last year, this was 11,500, and here's my overall assumption inflation rate. You can click into the actuals as well. So, okay, 2.6 million, that's a lot higher than 11,000. What's making this up? And an option you have is to drill into transactions. So I can click on which transactions built up this number. And you can see here that, there's a $2.6 million invoice. Description says it was a lunch. It's likely a typo. So this is something you can go back and, get resolved and get reloaded into your system. From that report, you can go back to, you can click on the top, and it's going to undo that pivot we did on the dimensions. But you can also change these as well. So from a retail perspective, things change all the time. You might need to change your report to be looking at different attributes. You don't just want to look at the same thing over and over again. You might be adding different attributes over time, new colors, new sizes, things like that. So these reports are very dynamic, where I can take an existing report and assuming you have the correct access, the drag and drop functionality to come in and change that report. So in this case, say we want to add revenue to this report. I'm just going to go in, find that revenue account, drag it in there, run the report, and now I've added revenue to that report. I can drill in based on that account, see all the account groupings underneath it. The same report formatting applies. You can still see the variances. All the conditional formatting is still there. Simple drag and drop. Again, based on your access, you can save this as well. Well, everybody can save it because everybody has access to a personal reporting repository. So I can save off as many of my reports as I want to save. And if you have the correct access, you can publish these as shared reports as well. And now you can go into the overall reporting hierarchy and select where you want to put it from an organizational standpoint. You can also go through security and figure out who should have access to this report. Those are all very simple things to do within the environment. You can save it as a snapshot. You can also email it as well. And finally, the last thing we want to talk about is package reporting. So as much as we want to get into dynamic reporting, continuously updating, there are still cases where you're going to have to do package reporting that might go to the board or that you might have to present to management. Well, what you can do with Adaptive is connect your Excel workbook, and not just Excel, you can do this through PowerPoint, you can do this through Word as well, but you want to connect your existing workbooks to the Adaptive environment. You can do this using the Office Connect tool that allows you to take whatever formatted reports you have and connect them live to the Workday environment, your Adaptive environment. And this makes updating those monthly reports a breeze. So from here, you can see we're focused on February right now. So if I wanted to update this to be the March reporting book, I can go in, click on Workbook Properties, and you see the report's got a date. That's what's choosing which months to look at. So if we updated this to be March 31st, and then clicked refresh, you're going to see all these months updates. So now we're looking at October through March and no longer looking just through February. The working budget's for March, the actuals are for March, this whole number updated. You can update the whole workbook in just a matter of seconds. And again, you don't have to update the whole, you don't have to recreate your whole workbooks. You can choose which cells are going to get connected to the Adaptive Workspace, and you can even click up here to show which cells have been connected to it. So anything in blue means that that's connected from a data perspective to the Adaptive Workspace. Anything in green means it's taking a label from the Adaptive Workspace. And this is very easy to update as well. So if I wanted to add, you can see, these cells down here were not connected. So if I wanted to connect the tax through other expense accounts, I can just highlight them, go find which accounts I want to use to connect those. These are expenses and allocations, so we'll highlight taxes and benefits through other expense, drag them over. Now I can see those cells are blue, they're connected to the environment. I can click refresh, and now the data is being fed in from the Adaptive environment. It's that easy to update your current reports to connect to this dynamic planning environment. So if you need to run a new report workbook for this new what-if scenario you're planning, you can take the same books, just connect them, switch the version you're looking at, and all of a sudden run the same reports that you had before and see the new expected outcome. Now we're going to open this up for questions. So again, like Connie mentioned before, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them into the QA section. Looks like we already have a couple in here, but please feel free to continue to submit them if you have them. First one here is, you mentioned Adaptive Insights can connect to different data sources. What data sources can Adaptive Insights connect to? Well, in reality, it can connect to any data source. They have built-in connectors for a few specific ones where you can, connect very, very quickly to Intact, Dynamics, which is Great Plains, NetSuite, Salesforce, and Workday, assuming, those are the cloud versions of them. But they also have different ways to connect to any other data source. So you have a cloud connector where you can build APIs to connect to any cloud technology. They have the ability to connect to flat files. They have the ability to connect to anything you can get a JDBC source to as well. So in reality, there's no tool you can't connect to. Some are, easy built in. Some take a little bit of customization, but, it's easy to connect to any source system you have out there. We have another one out there as well. So how long does it take to convert my current Excel process to Adaptive? Well, this is obviously going to be very dependent on what your current Excel process is. We've seen it take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, depending. Generally, people do this as a journey and maybe not a singular step. So focus your Adaptive conversion process to the high-value ones. It might be product planning. It might be revenue planning. Work towards maybe a centralized P&L, add cash flow on top of that. But work in steps so that you can build this out to what your business needs to get to that full dynamic planning process. We have another one here. So How do I get my management team to support the investment in technology? We're currently using Excel across the entire organization, and I know it is not a good long-term solution. I know we are behind the competition, but my leadership team does not see the benefits of investing in a solution. How do I tell them the importance of getting the right tool in place? For this one, I'm actually going to hand it over to Connie. Connie, do you want to answer this?
Sure. So we've all been there before. Getting the right technology in place is critical in today's business world. And exactly to your point, the company is not investing in technology or definitely falling behind the competition. That's where we come in. Let us help you. We're here to evaluate your current business process and make recommendations on technology that can help you with data, planning, analytical piece of the business, workflow, reporting, and dashboards, exactly as David had displayed today. And then the other piece is to show the return on investment. We can help provide you with some return on investment, information to share with your leadership team around time savings, accuracy, sales impact, margin impact, so you have clear objectives to track. Again, a lot of this is, there are objectives out there and subjective work, but we can definitely help you with the objective piece as well. So I've been there before. It takes time, but one thing I suggest is documenting how your teams are spending their day, and I've done this a lot before, is really collecting data, rolling up that data, consolidating, pulling reports. How much time are they spending doing that? It's always very eye-opening when you share that information. Document it and share it with your leadership team. And I think it's always shocking how little time is actually spent on running your business. Technology is really here to support the people, the process, and the data, so you have more time to make business recommendations and decisions to improve your bottom line. So again, documenting current state and what that future opportunity is, along with that return on investment, is sometimes all you need. So definitely reach out to us and let us know if we can help you with that. Is that it for questions?
Looks like that's it.
Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us today. You will receive an email with a recording or a link to the webinar of the recording. And please share this with your coworkers, with your senior leaders, with friends, family, whoever you want to share it with. And again, as David mentioned earlier, please reach out to us at any point in time that we can help you improve your business. Thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you.